This is season 5, episode 10 of the CatchMark SportsNet Podcast, brought to you by Chris Wank Real Estate of Coldwell Banker, Woodland Schmidt. Monday, November 13th, 2013. This is the final podcast of the fall season. We'll kick it back next month with the winter season. I'm Scott DeCamp with CatchMark. We have some special guests and some very special guests too. In the special category is...
He has guests that are proof that mental illness strikes every 60 seconds in the United States.
CJ Bennett, North Muskegon Jr., just a whiz with all things tech, wonderful photographer, and also a CatchMark SportsNet helping us out, which we greatly appreciate. We have John Russell, longtime broadcaster.
Long time.
Yep. Golden Pipes.
A little more experience than I have.
Yeah. Been at it a long time, does a great job.
That's great you could admit that, CJ. Yeah. Takes a man.
It's all about
takes a man to admit
your
that.
weaknesses. You have to know them to be able to grow them.
That's right. You have to be able to recognize it first. And then Mike Taylor, the man does not need an introduction, but he's under the very special category.
That's right, folks. I believe in 5 of the 10 commandments, and I used to walk on water, and no longer anything means anything to me.
We were talking about when people couldn't hear us, which is maybe better, but saying that how great CJ's hair is, and you're commenting on that.
Yes. Where did you buy it? I mean, I've never seen anything like the Ricky Ricardo.
It's amazing what you can find on Amazon nowadays.
It's like you must have like a Husqvarna hairdryer, to get that wave up in there. You know,
it's been trained. It's been doing it a couple years.
I used to have that. I had that look right there.
I had hair kind of like that
but,
at one point.
Yeah, it's amazing. Things go bad when you comb your hair with a rototiller. It's just it doesn't work out.
Not all up.
Yeah, it doesn't work out.
We were talking earlier, and you were trying to keep this thing afloat while I was trying to solve these technical issues. But CJ was, I think, I don't know. I think he says, I don't know much about sports. I won't be any good. And then I heard you guys talking about Joe Tanis. It's like he seemed to know what he was talking about. At least he knows chemistry and relationships.
I'm really good at making stuff up on the spot.
Yeah. Well, and again, I know there's a lot of things, with the playoff picture the way it is right now, and we're getting down to crunch time. And it's an exciting time, especially for West Michigan, because we're such a big football community, up and down the lakeshore here.
Yeah.
But, my question is, when we talk about, we have some great coaches in our area. We've lost some great coaches. We've had coaches that I think are great coaches, but never really got the opportunity to coach in an atmosphere or in a district that's supportive, of them the way they need to be supported. That comes down to district philosophy.
It does.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the AD. That has nothing to do with the superintendent. It has 100% to do with the boards of education. Okay, because let me tell you something. That superintendent answers to the board. The board decides everything that goes on in that district. Well, and I remember I look back and I don't know how many years ago, John, was it that we had Lorenzo Rodriguez up there at Shelby.
Right.
Had a great year.
He had like 4 great years.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with him, and I said, Zoe, here's what's going to happen. In these smaller schools around here, to be consistently at that level is tough.
Yeah.
It's impossible, okay? You see, because times aren't like they were when Dusty was out here at Ravenna,
right,
and Jack was over here at Oak Ridge. It's not like that. Orchard View won how many state titles in a couple of years in a row?
Right.
It's not like that anymore. And so, my advice to these young coaches like this getting in there, if you love the game of football, okay, and you really want to say, hey, I want to see what I can do, you test. The only time you can test the waters is when you're marketable.
Sure.
Okay? And that's from 34 years of coaching. You test the waters when you are most marketable. Back then, Lorenzo Rodriguez, he came to me and said, yeah, I should have listened to you. I was hot, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Ship sank,
Right. And it wasn't like he got stupid.
Now, no. Yeah. And no, not at all. Right, and Lorenzo, these guys know football.
Sure.
They know people. They're good people. These guys are, people say, oh, you coach football. No, they coach people. They teach the game of football.
Right.
But a guy like Joe Tanis, that has worked and suffered and had rough times, okay, now he's up there. And I told him this, if you absolutely love the game of football, okay, you go test the waters. You don't have to take a job, but it sure is a good time to go out and test the waters and see what's out there that you can get. Okay, now, if you love the community up there in Hart more than you love football, you stay right there and enjoy that community. Sure. Okay, because football's not always going to be a part of it then, of that equation.
Well, I liked what CJ was saying a minute ago when we were trying to solve these issues here. You were mentioning, wasn't it something about being the right fit? I mean, because maybe it didn't work out at OV for him, but maybe it wasn't the right circumstances, right group, right time. I don't know.
And again, but there's extenuating circumstances why you're not the right fit. You mean to tell me you go in an interview, you're the right fit when you came out? Okay?
Right.
Not only did you accept the job, you were offered the job.
Sure.
Okay? Now, a lot of things can happen.
But that's generally before they meet the kids even, right?
And and again, but these coaches do research. They talk to former coaches. They talk to assistant coaches. They talk to people in the community. They talk to coaches that coach against them. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with these coaches before they jump in and take a job.
Plus, I think what happens too in some cases is, especially if it's your first job, I mean, all of a sudden you get that chance to go someplace, and maybe you don't necessarily do your due diligence, and maybe you in the back of your mind saying this might not be the best situation I can get into, but hey, it's a job.
Your ego
I think
is writing checks your body can't cash.
Right, and I think all of a sudden they say, well, at least it's a job, and I can change the culture here, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Okay, and so here's my question. You look at Orchard View the last 15 years.
Right.
Okay, and Joe got there and everything. Okay, you're looking at that job now. You're thinking, is that a job I really I want to apply for? Is that there's good coaching jobs, there's bad coaching jobs. Okay?
Sure.
You got to decide that.
Right.
You got to decide that. But you mean to tell me that when Joe Tanis, walked away or was escorted out the door or whatever, at Orchard View, you look at that Hart job and you go, this is a good job.
But in Orchard View, and there was, we were in the middle of a run while we were broadcasting. I think there were like 10, 12 years they were in the postseason. Made a couple of deep runs. Of course, when Shillito was there, it was off the charts.
Why?
Well, partly because of him.
And it's and again, you're right.
Right.
But he had the administration supporting.
You need everybody on board.
And and you know what? I'm a football guy.
Right.
You can't. I don't care what board member you are. I got a hard time believing you know my subject matter more than me.
Sure.
I remember being in an interview, and I had a lady on the board ask me, what defense are you planning on running? What? What defense am I planning on running?
Right.
Okay, and I thought, I'm going to run the Nebraska 6.
Yeah.
And everybody on that committee went.
Yeah. Exactly.
And after that, and I thought, nobody asked me, what's a Nebraska 6?
Yeah.
They all act like they knew.
Right.
After that interview was over, any questions and concerns? Absolutely. You asked me what defense I was going to run. I said the Nebraska 6, okay? I made it up. There's no such thing. I wanted to see if anybody here would say,
Right.
could you explain that to us? I've never heard of that.
Sure.
But everyone went, Nebraska 6. Now, what has me concerned, you people are going to be evaluating me as a coach. You don't even know my subject matter.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't know my subject matter. You're asking questions. I'm making up answers just to see what they know, okay, and how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
That's why I worry about, when young coaches come to me and say, well, I ask them, when are you going to be looking for a head coaching job? You need to be looking for a head coaching job now.
Yeah.
You've been a coordinator for 6 years, 7 years. You need to be, and when I hear that, and I ask them and check with them, hey, you looking at anything soon down the pipeline? Okay, well, we need to talk about going into an interview.
Well, I got to warn our viewers here. Coach Taylor's just getting warmed up right now.
Yeah.
So before we get going any further,
We got to get
thank our
CJ on an
sponsors.
NIL.
Yeah.
We do. It doesn't stand for
Okay.
name, image, and likeness, though, here, though.
Now,
I don't know what that is.
again,
but-
I just think that's interesting when we look at, we've lost some good coaches in the area because,
Right.
it just didn't work out for them. Okay. And I just think it's interesting that as much money, effort, time, and the passion we have for football, it kills me to see coaches sometimes get just kicked to the curb and have to go out and start fresh. And I mean, and I use Lorenzo Rodriguez.
Right.
Thank God, he got a chance to. And I told him, don't be afraid to go to a bigger school and take a coordinator's job.
Sure.
Head coaching is, it's tough.
Right.
But don't be afraid. And now he's been down here and had great success and he's doing a
Muskegon,
great
yeah.
job with,
Yeah.
the community loves him, the players love him,
Right.
and I'm happy for him. But I also feel this, I still think Zoe can be a great head coach,
Oh, sure.
okay? And given the right program.
Right.
And I hope he's real careful about when he puts his name on that, and throws his hat in a ring for another job. So that's all I'm just trying to make that point that, we got to, I hope we do a better job of protecting some of our coaches, because
Yeah, we got a lot more to get to, but I want to thank the sponsors real quick before we move forward. Big Stone Therapies, Rescue 2.0 LLC, Grieve Law, Edward Jones with financial advisor Brett Adkins. I'm sure you guys have heard of him, the old Oak Ridge boy. Coldwell Banker Woodland Schmidt with David Duesenberry.
hey, Dews was number 20 in high school. Yep, the two most famous number 20s in the state of Michigan to ever play football.
David Duesenberry, Benny Clark.
Benny's third. Benny's third, but it is a running back from the Lions,
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Barry Sanders. I thought we were talking high school level. I wasn't even thinking of that.
Yeah, you were thinking Greg Brady probably.
He was groovy.
I'm old enough to remember number 20 being Lombardi. How about that for the old
yeah.
Lions, huh? Wow.
That's a
Billy
great question.
Wasn't Billy Sims?
Billy Sims.
Billy
yeah,
Sims was number
Yep,
20,
yeah.
yeah.
Three.
So-
Yeah.
Farm Bureau Insurance, the Kenny Agency, 5-star real estate leaders with Matt Parker, the Birdhouse, Scheid Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, Greenridge Realty with Chris Steckman, Sarah Real. And of course, our title sponsor, Chris Wink, Real Estate of Coldwell Banker, Woodland Schmidt. Mr. Taylor happens to know him well, being up in the Shelby area, up in those parts.
That's where I hide out, CJ.
Hey, you always got to find your.
I live in a bat cave.
So, but Chris
You
Wink
have the
does.
Batmobile?
You might. He's got everything else in his basement. I
Yeah,
think.
it's a unicycle with training wheels.
So Chris Wink, look him up. He can help you out with any kind of land or housing, that you're trying to acquire. He's homegrown and he loves working in this community and helping you out. And he's also sports savvy. So
He's involved right now with the youth football too. So I know he gives back to the community in a great way by coaching and spending time developing the youth. So that's another great thing he does.
So we certainly appreciate him and him supporting the show, and we appreciate you guys being on. We need to hear from this guy, CJ Bennett.
Right.
Again, I can't say enough good things about him. First time I met him was, I would say, I think it was it would have been last year because it was maybe early last year when at least during the North Muskegon-Ravenna game, it might have been the North Muskegon Hart game, I think.
Yeah.
And I just didn't realize this guy was a high school sophomore and he knew the ins and outs of the jobs that you guys do and the streaming and stuff. But what got you into that first and foremost?
So I was interested in tech, as long as I can remember, and I went into my 5th grade year at school, and I saw a kid named Liam Lindstrom at my school. He was working in our theater, working with our tech director, Paul Henderson.
How you remember going into your 5th grade year?
Well, you have to
it's like-
remember, it's not that long ago.
I mean, my senior year was 5 years,
I was in my mom's womb and I got bored.
Yeah, I decided I hadn't seen daylight yet, and I was,
But so I ended up, I went and talked with Liam himself. The next year, actually, at our 6th grade camp, he ended up being my camp counselor for school. And we got talking, and he was talking about his plans to go to Michigan Tech, which is now one of the schools I'm looking at for after high school. And we started talking about it. And after that point, he kind of took me under his wing and started teaching me the things he knew. And from there, it just grew into all the different things, kind of in a whirlwind. I don't know the exact path it took to get there, but we're here now.
All I can say is this guy has taken it and run with it. It's really impressive.
It's all about finding opportunities. Just try everything, even if you don't figure out you don't like it. Just try it. There's no hurting in trying.
And you hear her story, and you interviewed one of his classmates at halftime of the game. Kaylee Martin.
Right,
She
right.
sang the national anthem, beautiful voice. But you've been around long enough. You both have to know. North Muskegon, these are the types of kids this school's pumping out.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that's neat about North Muskegon, too, is the fact that it's one school where, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, you have grade school
Yep.
kids
One building, K through
mingled
12.
in with a high school.
Takes me 3 minutes to walk from the high school office to the elementary office.
You don't even have to step outdoors, do you?
Nope.
Or to the principal's office.
I've been there a couple of times.
What an opportunity for what an opportunity.
I doubt it.
Oh no.
for like a fourth or a fifth grader to see, an athlete or whatever, and all of a sudden, you think about how impressionable you were as a fifth grader, and you see and you're going to school.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
walk through the hallways now, and it's, hey CJ, what are you doing?
Yeah, you go 5 to 10.
And it's a great opportunity for you to be a mentor, sort of. I mean, all of
cool.
it, be a role model. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of pressure there,
Yeah.
probably. You don't want to screw things up, but
I try. I'm not the best with the little kids, but I try, and
sure.
the ones that seem interested or that don't, I try and talk to them, figure out what's going on. Just take a minute, learn where they're coming from.
So you have a real talent for that, and you have a real eye for photography. You take some beautiful photos. You were talking earlier about computer science
Yeah,
and IT work.
yeah,
Obviously, a great field to be in as well. Always a need for that.
yeah. It's growing.
But I would say that keep your options open, because you never know.
Definitely.
If just go for it.
I mean, my question is when you look, like you said, you were looking at Michigan Tech.
Yeah.
My question is, if you go to, when you get to that point in the near future
Yeah.
of making that decision, what college you want to go to, what do you see yourself? What major at that point do you see yourself going?
So typically, to get into those IT careers, you'd go into a computer science degree, and then after that, to get into your graduate school, your master's degree, you would find a field that kind of branches off from there. You could go into networking or cybersecurity, but typically everyone who's going into the IT field would follow into the computer science.
Well, this guy right here, he's no dummy. He knows he's sitting in the office that does tech work, that does IT work,
Right.
that does cyber work.
Got my own desk.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. I mean, you're right here. We are. There might be some options there
sure.
for an internship or something like that.
Right.
So
Yeah. no.
That's well, and again, that's the way things are today.
Yeah, and I work with our school over the summers. I get paid to go in and help because I have some of the knowledge that our tech directors taught after Liam left. I just kept learning and got some of the knowledge that they need help with. So,
I would think too that if you're getting into computer sciences and things like IT, obviously, is there's so much going on now in the world, and they talk about hacking into defense systems and all that. And I got to think that there is going to be a huge market, and there is a huge market for people that know computers that can do the anti-hacking or to do the protection.
Yeah.
So is that all kind of part and parcel? I mean,
it is. I've definitely looked at cybersecurity where you have unethical hackers, and then you can there's courses now that I could get into called ethical hacking, which just lets me learn exactly.
Is that up there with sign stealing?
I mean, it kind of is. You're trying to figure out exactly where the
trying to crack codes and stuff.
yeah,
right.
Yep, there we go.
figuring out where the other team's coming from.
Yeah, don't look at me. Don't look at me when you
Was
say
it
that.
Connor Stallions? He wasn't available today. We would have had
What a
him on.
name! How do you like that? How do you like that name? That sounds like how the general casting is. Connor Stallions. So
That's really incredible. That it's a skill.
yeah,
It's a skill, and just like an athlete has a skill set, what you've got, that's a talent.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of those talents, and that's a great thing. And he said he didn't know much about sports. I know you know a lot about cross country.
Yeah,
he
a
runs
little
cross
bit,
country.
little
His
bit.
dad's a cross country coach. His dad works at Helmet.
okay.
So
Right down the road here.
yep. So, what was I shouldn't put you on the spot, but I'm gonna.
It's all
Tell
right.
everybody what happened at the cross country state finals, and it wasn't your fault because it can happen to any of us, and it has happened to all of us.
Yeah.
Not everybody trips a runner out of the block.
He was I know he's mortified because I've been in those shoes, and it's not a good feeling. But tell him what happened.
Yeah. So I showed up to see started with the Division IV girls.
At
And-
MIS, they had the
yeah.
cross country state finals in Brooklyn. MIS.
Yeah.
So I pull out my camera and I start taking my photos, and I'm looking back through, and I can see the ones that are right there that I just took are still there. But I come to figure out after the Division III boys that none of my photos are there. So all of the photos that I had been seeing were stored temporarily on the camera storage. When I pull out my SD card, there's nothing. And so I actually recently today, I grabbed
And you called him. We got to do this again. Come on back.
everyone back. Everyone back.
Podcast here.
Yeah. Kids, come back and line up again. My camera.
Yeah.
That's why I said I know the feeling.
Yeah.
One of the coolest experiences there is they have the media van, which drives you around all the different, the mile marker, the 2 mile marker. But after you get from the 2 mile marker, it's probably a good 1.5 mile drive back to around the course, back to the finish line. And that van ends up going on turns 1 and 2 backwards at probably 70 miles an hour going up on that curve. It's pretty crazy. You got 12 people or 15 people loaded into the 12 passenger van and
Sure.
going 70 around the
They
course.
gets pulled over by the police, for speeding.
Crazy.
Well, they're in the right spot. At least they're at the Michigan International Speedway.
It sounds more like a prison sentence that you went through instead of a,
That driver has to have some experience because he gets up to some pretty good speeds going through that course. There's people running around. He's got to be locked in watching.
Sure.
But he was when you're in that situation, all you can do is make the best of it.
Yep.
Have a backup plan, and he had his phone, so he's able to get some video interviews with Jessica Jaswinski, or got her crossing the finish line, coming down the stretch. Got an interview with her and her teammates. So, it wasn't like he didn't get anything. You just make the best of the situation. That's all you can do.
Yep.
Because that stuff's going to happen.
yeah, well, that's, crazy.
But
Lucky nobody else got hurt.
I saw that SD card today, and I was pretty mad at it. So I took some side cutters to it. It won't work anymore.
Isn't that something, John? Guys our age, we're like mad at ex-wives. He's mad at an SD card.
that SD card died a hero.
Yeah. He's taking the SD card to court.
They're not on speaking terms.
No.
Yeah, the SD card cheated on me.
Yeah, man.
So, but this is a sports podcast. We're going to talk about that. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you guys on, among many reasons, is
We kill time.
you do, and you've done a great job of that. So
we
thank
do.
you.
We can kill time real quick.
So, you've seen a lot of football in your day. You've covered game almost every week. We're hoping we can get John back on the air, and he will be back on the air this week with Mike.
Right.
They'll be calling the game together, the Muskegon game.
Yeah.
10-2 Muskegon versus, I think they're 10-2 East Lansing.
They lost the first 2 games of the season, just like Muskegon did.
Yeah.
So, we'll start with that matchup. Muskegon won 10 in a row, like you said. Last loss was to De La Salle, which, if things shake out, they could see them in Fort Field potentially. So, but you look at that, that matchup first of all, and we'll talk about North Muskegon as well. That's the other team, and that's CJ's school.
Right.
We'll talk about that matchup with Menominee. But what are you guys thinking about this Muskegon East Lansing matchup at Greenville, 1:00 Saturday?
Well, I'll tell you, they're 2 teams that have taken the same route. Both of them have lost their first 2 games. And East Lansing, their first 2 opponents were in the playoffs. So, it wasn't a fluke. And since then, they just have really turned it on. I'm learning a little bit about the East Lansing Trojans a little bit. They've got a running back that is like 1,300 yards or something like that, can catch the ball, a quarterback that can pass, and a couple of good receivers as well. Solid team coached by Bill Farraco, who's been coaching forever.
Yeah.
I think you've ran across him a few times.
Yep, it was the COVID year when Shores played them over at East Lansing, and
Yeah.
East Lansing was loaded that year. They had Andrew Anthony, who played at U of M.
Right.
They have, I think it's Ethan Boyd. Last name's Boyd. He's a lineman at Michigan State.
Okay.
They had another kid, I think, who ended up going to CMU, who was the quarterback that year. They had one or two other just really talented players among some others, good
Sure.
supporting cast. But that was a great game, and Shores had to work for it. But ultimately, Brady Rose and company pulled it off, and then they
Brady
ended up winning
Rose.
it. Then they beat De La Salle, Rowan's first year there
Right.
at De La Salle. That's who Shores beat in the finals that year. But what do you got, Mike, on this game?
Well, and again, I'm looking at, the running back that, John was referring to, Jace Clarizio. Yeah. He's a junior. Last week he carried the football 30 times for 230 yards. That's kind of like Benny Clark stats.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying 30 carries, that's 50% of your offense right there. The quarterback, Ben Fletcher, right now is a junior also. So it's a very, to me, and you look at the skill positions, they're dominated by underclassmen.
Yeah.
Okay. Next year, they're going to be pretty good. They're pretty good this year. My thing is this. It was a dogfight last week in the first half for them, okay, with Byron Center.
Yeah.
And Byron Center got by Caledonia over there, and Caledonia had is a good football program, and but right now it's like Muskegon is so physical. Okay, I'm not saying that they're as good as they've been in the past in the trenches, but they got 3 seniors in that backfield. Okay, and they are a very, very physical football team, and they will impose at some point in time. They'll just break your spirit, okay? And it's not the same team that played Rockford, and it's not the same team that played De La Salle, okay? These guys have really grown and developed, and they keep coming, and they keep coming, and they keep coming. And at some point in time, your will gets tested, and that's what we're going to find out this weekend is can East Lansing go 4 quarters?
Right.
Yep.
Can they go 4 quarters?
Right.
And I don't know if they can.
Yeah.
I really don't know if they can against this team because this is to me, it's a very special Muskegon team because they play with such tenacity, okay? And they play together.
Yeah, they play with something to prove for sure.
Sure.
Have you seen a Muskegon play before? Have you been to a Muskegon?
I have not been
game?
to.
So we talked about this. Muskegon gets to Ford Field, and if CJ's around, maybe we can get him, a press pass to get him to shoot some stuff because he does work and do work for us. So maybe we could apply for that and get him a pass to shoot the game. But it's just it's.
That'd be
you
great
guys
to have on
seen
your
it.
resume.
Yeah.
You guys have seen it though. I mean, it's like night and day. That's no offense to the smaller schools because I came from a smaller school too. But when you get Muskegon's Division II and then you get North Muskegon's Division 7, there's some very good athletes on North Muskegon's team.
Sure.
But when you get to that Division II level, generally speaking, it's just apples to oranges almost.
Yeah.
A great reference is it's like watching Division III football and then going to a Division I game.
Yeah.
The speed of the game and the size of the athletes is just more consistently bigger.
And that's the thing. You're going to have kids in that Division I level on occasion that can hang with those bigger school kids. It's just across the board, though. Like to Mike's point, it's just a different game.
Got a bigger pool to pull
Yeah.
from.
It is. And that's exactly it.
And then you see where they're going to school. I mean, all of a sudden it's not, and nothing against, MAC schools or anything like that. I don't mean that like that. But all of a sudden you're talking, Big Ten, you're talking the SEC. I mean, you're talking, these are guys that are going to someday even play on Sundays. Not that anybody else isn't, but you're right, the speed of the game. And speaking of speed, Muskegon has had it for forever. And I know this East Lansing team is fast, but one thing, how do you coach against speed, right? I mean, you can't.
How do you practice against?
That's what I meant. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Simulate it.
How do you simulate that for 5 days in practice
I guess
before you
get a
play?
golf. You get a golf cart, right?
I don't know what you do. Bring back alumni and say, "Hey, can you guys give us a look?"
But that is a thing. You're right. I mean, they're not going to see typically, the speed that that's going to be out there.
And again, you look at Scott. They have to play against Mackay guy.
Right.
How do you simulate him in a scout team?
Yeah.
How do you go? Okay, this week, son, you're going to be Mackay guy. Practice.
Yeah.
You've got the agility of a one-winged eagle. Yeah. You're not going to be Mackay guy.
Right.
And how do you get good quality looks at practice to prepare you for a Mackay guy?
Yeah.
You don't. You can't.
One thing I want to say here before we move on is Scott and I were talking about it just a little bit, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of it, but Muskegon had lost a player from their 2017 championship team, Eli Jackson, a lineman. I think he was all state.
He was number 44.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a load. He was a big kid.
What happened to him?
He passed away, and they had his funeral service like 10 o'clock on Saturday, and the Muskegon had to play that game. And you can catch it on, I'm sure, YouTube. But there's a very
He was a phenomenal high school player.
He's a really good player.
Sorry to hear that.
There's a very heart wrenching where Shane has got the team together at the end of the game and talking about it. And and this is my point where we're talking about coaches and things like that. There's so much that goes into coaching, especially when you get into the bigger schools, inner city schools. I mean, these are, you could tell we say it becomes a cliche that, hey, this is our family. We're a family, doggone it. But in some cases, in some of these bigger schools, and Shane has had to deal with it, you know it because you've seen it behind the scenes. We know Shane, and we've seen that stuff that you can't really necessarily talk about. But, Yeah, I mean, that's family. I mean, some of these kids coming up in tough situations, stuff you have to do.
Exactly right.
It's one thing to, and I'll end it with this. It's one thing to have a coach that's an X's and O's coach, right? But it's another thing to be that coach that can take a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, coach, I don't have no place to go. Hey, coach, can you have any idea? I mean, that's what some of these coaches are dealing with.
No, that puts things in perspective.
It does, totally.
Because we get wrapped up. A lot of people get wrapped up in the wins and losses. And
Right.
So and so doesn't win the big game or whatever.
Sure.
But you know what? That there's things that are more important than football.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things that are more important than football.
Exactly.
What you have here is when you look at programs, and let's use Muskegon as an example. How many of the kids come from broken homes? How many of the kids come from one-parent homes?
Right.
What you got to understand is the one thing that is a stabilizing factor for those kids is when they can come to the weight room. They can come into the locker room, and they're around that football
It's their
area.
space.
Yeah.
It's their space.
It is their safe
people.
space, and that is the one time that the coaches know those kids are safe.
Yep.
So what do? We find ways to keep them there.
Yep.
Because we don't want them on the streets. We don't want them taken off with, who you don't know who they're with going where, to Grand Rapids and back or what.
Yeah.
But you know what? As long as we have the door open and one of our coaches can keep that weight room open, and we've got a big screen TV set that kids can watch a football game on a Saturday night, okay, on a Sunday afternoon. Anytime we can keep that facility open and our kids know they're welcome there, they can come in and I'm telling you right now, they have blankets, they have pillows, they'll sleep right there on the floor. They'll sleep right there on the floor to get some rest. But that's the one time those coaches know those kids are safe for sure.
And there's a lot of great people that support them, maybe behind the scenes.
Yeah, kind of guardian.
They should be credited
guardian
too.
angels
Yeah, you love to see that as well. But what's awesome about these two teams that are left, we talked about Muskegon already,
Right.
but you've got just across the lake, literally, it's North Muskegon. And the two teams that are left in the whole Muskegon area in the playoffs are those two schools right there that are basically neighbors.
Just about the biggest and just about the smallest.
And we were talking about, Division II and Division 7, maybe not the same thing. Having said that, and I've watched North Muskegon enough, they're still exciting to watch. They still got a lot of great athletes, and especially for that division. And what I've been really impressed with is, and I didn't always see it maybe last year and maybe this year, it's hard to say. They start off the year with a nice win over Pewamo, that's always a good way to start. But they've really, really upped their game in the areas of mental toughness and physicality from what I've seen.
They had some strength coaches come in that did those mental exercises as well as physical exercises.
So Meraki, Dan Hunt, that runs that. Yep. He's worked with him. I saw him at the game Saturday.
Yeah.
But you called the game. I mean, what did you think?
And again, when you talk about this, CJ, the one thing I think about, and North Muskegon right now is playing without one of their best ball players.
Yep.
Okay, and he tried to give it a go Saturday.
Yep.
And we talked about it before the game. I don't know. His doctor clears him. The mother's against it. I talked to his father and his grandfather after the game in the parking lot. Do you leave that decision up to your son?
Yeah.
Whether he's going to play or not, or as a parent, do you say, "Look here, okay, I know where your heart's at."
Yep.
Right.
But I'm just telling you,
it's really hard as a parent to tell your kid you can't do what you love.
and especially when the medical profession clears him.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about Ben Myers too is, you don't want to see this happen to any kid, but he is so level-headed and just quiet and just does his job and doesn't ask for anything. You hate to see it happen to any kids, but especially to him because he's a kid that just does his job and just stays under the radar. But just
think what that team, what level that team is at with him out there on the field.
Sure.
Okay, because that's two positions that he plays, one on offense, one on defense, and he's the best on the field.
Sure.
Okay, and when you just you're a smaller school, and you go into battle and you're missing a guy like him.
Oh yeah,
you don't replace it.
Right.
But it's great to see the other kids stepping up too at the same time. Cullen Bartos has really played well at the running back spot. And they're doing it by kind of committee on defense, which is what you want. I mean, Chuck Myers, his brother, has been a monster on defense. Alec Newville had like 15 tackles, which is not usually what you want from your defensive back spot.
Right.
But he was coming up and making plays.
But let's talk about this. You talk about Division II, Division VII. Okay, could North Muskegon play the same style of football as the Big Reds and get away with it? No.
No.
Because again, we're talking about we're playing smash mouth football. We're going to throw the football 5 times a game.
Right.
If we throw 5 times a game.
Yeah. Sure.
But I'm saying North Muskegon right now can play a finesse game and spread the ball around the field and let's use our skilled athletes to our advantage.
Right.
And if they play a team that is a team that's like a smash mouth power running football team,
Sure.
do we match up?
Well, that's where, if it happens, if they face Lumen Christie, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
They're facing a team that style. You talk about running around, throwing the ball around. You saw it because you were there. I don't know if you saw the clip of the go-ahead touchdown or the tying touchdown, the go-ahead PAT, where James Young rolled left. There was nothing there. Ran all the way across the field almost, stopped, threw back to his left to Landon Christensen in the end zone for that.
It's a 14-second play.
Yeah. Where were you? Where were you when that happened?
I was
on the sideline.
right
I know
by-
where you were. You were in the stadium, but
I was right by the.
You
I
were
was
Chuck E.
on
Cheese.
on the side of the home side of the end zone. Was right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got that photo. There might have been a little bit of a conflict with some other players between me and the ball.
oh
but
yeah, that happens. I was fortunate enough to keep the camera on it the whole time.
sometimes you want to sit there and say, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! I'm
You
trying to
don't
get
know
the
how
photo."
many times I've thought I had a great shot,
Yeah.
and I was too zoomed in or whatever, and you missed the shot.
Well, it's like that photo that you put up on the website and on your Facebook page that I got of the players in their huddle with the trophy.
Oh, that's-
that was me, hands up in the air, just
You didn't even
just
know
trying to
you were
get
pointing,
something.
right?
Yeah,
That was amazing because
it was just luck
you had the trophy in that perfect spot
with
You had-
the flag right behind
flag
it.
waving behind it. You could see the kids just like yelling or smiling,
Yep.
like a big smile on his face. It's just
Play that play reminded me of when TJ Duckett scored against
That's a good
Michigan
point.
on the last play
Yeah.
of the game.
Right.
That was the same kind of situation and play and everything like that.
And Landon had struggled a little bit. Now the pass he dropped before that, I cut him some slack on it because there was a defender right in front of him, and he pulled his hands down, and then the ball hit him right in the chest. But that's a tough catch to make.
Well, here's my question, because I noticed that TJ didn't have,
He had a couple,
he
two
wasn't.
receptions. He had the one down the sideline, almost scored, but
Yeah, he didn't get the targets. He wasn't targeted as much as I thought he's been targeted in the past.
Yeah.
Was it because they did something defensively with him, or is it just,
with North Muskegon, if you're North Muskegon, that's fine because they got other guys.
Yeah.
I know, but he's a talent.
He is.
He's a
Yeah.
talent, and when you have a talent like him, you find ways to get him the ball.
He's
a
consistent.
playmaker.
He's consistent.
He is.
He's a
which is more
playmaker.
important. You know exactly what you're going to get.
I thought maybe he made his dad mad, and his dad was calling the plays.
Right.
His dad is up in the booth, so,
Yeah.
with a headset on, so you never know. And Ken Byard, come on, he's a little squirrely. So.
Hey,
You watching, Ken?
you guys being camera guys.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about this. Some of the greatest shots, and again, I guess I'm thinking of sports specifically, have been. I wonder what the percentage of accidents are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like because to actually you could anticipate all you want, and that's part of it. You have to, but I wonder if. You got a general idea, and all of a sudden, bam! We talked about the ones that don't work out, but how about you get all of a sudden you look at your viewfinder and say, "Wow, I got the ball right at the fingertips."
How many times are you surprised?
Well,
That's every time for me because I just get, if I get a good one, it's because I got lucky. He
it's
actually
really
has talent.
it's really about feel for me because sometimes I'm generally standing on the defending team side trying to get offensive plays. I'll get some defensive plays as well, but sometimes if I'm feeling a game differently, I'll move to the offensive side, and it's really all about what I'm feeling at the time. And there's definitely luck to it. Most of the photos that I'm trying to get, I just follow the ball,
Right.
And because everyone wants a photo of them with the ball,
Sure.
so it's a lot of it's just luck. But you just got to know when the ball is there, you got to get your shot composed real quick and hit the shutter button.
Are you snapping every play?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps to have great equipment, but you got to know how to use it.
Yeah.
On Saturday, I took 2,200 photos, posted 212.
Wow.
There's so many photos behind the scenes that don't make it through.
Yeah.
So this guy, it was I wouldn't call it a monsoon, but it was raining pretty heavily at times. North Muskegon, Ravenna, you got some beautiful photos, which sometimes it doesn't lend itself to that when you're in those conditions. But I mean, you have to see him. It's hard to explain it, but he's got all his rain gear. He's got his equipment protected.
The photos on the Facebook of me at that game.
Yeah.
My SportsNut. What do you call it? The SportsNut
the
profile.
spotlight. Yeah. And him and his rain gear. But I mean, these guys. I thought what you meant, like you put yourself in danger if you get too close to action, it might get run over sometimes.
That happens too.
Yeah, I've got a photo from Saturday's game where TJ's coming right at me, and I stepped to the left real quick because if I didn't, he was coming right at my leg.
Yeah.
They're coming out from underneath me.
Coaches get hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So about
broadcasters.
About the Norse, I mean,
fact.
You didn't cover him against Lawton, right? Did you?
Pardon me?
Did you see him against Lawton too, or no?
No.
Okay, so similar type of, not the same team as Pewamo, but similar type of pedigree in terms of the way they operate and how they play and everything. Those two games battle tested right there, and that helps you. What do you guys think about what they've done and what they're heading into with Menominee, which I understand doesn't run the single wing anymore?
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that because I haven't seen them in forever.
I think as long as you got young, healthy, you got a chance to be in any game.
Yeah.
And I don't know what too far out of it is with him at quarterback, because when he gets that football in his hand,
right,
he can, he's not the swiftest of foot. Okay, he can extend plays and keep them alive, and but where he puts that football, he knows when to throw it like a rope, and he knows when to use a touch pass, how to drop it in there. But he threw a ball in that game. They were on the left sideline or on the left hash mark, and he ran a 5-yard out to the wide side. Boom. And I said, that is a college throw right there. Mm-hmm. Right there.
Right.
You don't see that. You don't see that pass from high school kids like that.
Yeah. Sure. And, in Menominee, I wonder, being in the UP, I mean, I can't believe that they're going to probably see a team that has proficient passing as North Muskegon.
You wouldn't think so. I was looking at what they've done, and so they beat Gladstone something like 44-27 or something, which that's a nice win. Gladstone's pretty good. And then they lost to they lost to Nagani by 27 or something like that at home, something like that. Then they lost a fairly tight win, a shootout to Kingsford.
Okay.
So that's their 2 losses. They lost back-to-back games. They just beat McBain 40-0, but I don't think McBain is what maybe they were in the past. They haven't been quite as strong as what they've been in the past, but I think a lot of this is probably on North Muskegon, how they play.
Yeah.
Not to disrespect Menominee, because I think they're good, but I think a lot of it depends on what's with North Muskegon bringing on Saturday.
So Menominee is not the single wing snap it to the running back, huh?
No, I think
that was Coach Hofer, wasn't it, for all those years?
I think Joe Tanis actually bought the rights to that. So,
okay.
So that's what they run at heart now.
Okay.
So
I got to write that down. Tanis bought the rights.
I'll tell you from just
like I said, you get lucky sometimes.
I got to ask Joe about that.
From just a calling standpoint, I was never a fan of John Shillito and the wing T and that stuff, because if it's run right, you just have no idea who has the ball. And that's why I always loved Dan Roan. When he came over to Fremont and we were up in Newaygo County. You were on his coaching staff then. And they threw the ball, and I thought, God, this is refreshing. I mean, that is, to me, that's when you got a passing team, man.
Hey, guys, we have our first commenter.
I saw that pop up there.
Matt Bowles, Muskegon offensive line coach, Muskegon Big Reds, O-line pride. Smash, get mauled, which we had Coach Bowles and a couple of his seniors on the podcast, and he does a great job.
One of Eastern Michigan's finest.
Yeah, they do it. He does a great job. And talk about,
he needs to be a head coach.
You talk about people who give their heart to it. Like
yes.
Coach Fairfield, he's cut from the same cloth.
Well, he is, and he's got that line that averages like 300 pounds.
Yeah,
they are monsters.
But he's exactly what I'm telling you. You know, he's available 24/7.
Right.
For his players, okay? And the more time he can spend with those kids, he's happier as well as the kids are.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And I'm telling you, he needs to be a head coach.
Oh, and he'll talk to you about that wrestling program, too.
Well, again, it's just the fact that he's spending time with kids.
Great job, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And when you look at, how many coaches over there at Muskegon, really have the potential to become seriously good head coaches.
Sure.
Dockery's over there, Zoe's over there. Right. You go, Bowles is over there. I mean, it just doesn't end with those guys. It's deep.
Right.
You know, how they stay there, I mean, they're committed to that program, the community, and the kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, those guys, you know, they got skills, and they need, their leadership needs to be shared around. Okay? They're all in there, you know what I mean?
Right.
These are the exact kind of coaches that need to be out there, you know, developing kids in other communities and programs.
Sure.
You know?
I think if we're talking about coaches, we have to bring up a guy who I don't think anyone ever has called him this, but I'm going to start calling him this. Larry Witham, the professor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he might not appreciate that. I don't know, but
No, he's the wily grid master. That's what he is, a wily grid master.
now this is his 8th year as a head coach in North Muskegon, but he's coached in other spots before that, assistant roles and other things like that. He's coached softball a long time.
Yeah, he was a killer softball coach.
Yeah, so
He had some-
and he's got Mike Jados, who was a head coach at Holton. He's got some good dudes over on his staff too. But what I want to ask CJ before we sign off on this podcast is, it's pretty cool to do what you do and to be able to have that front row seat. How much more special is it to do that, to be able to document this for your classmates?
I think one of my favorite things is walking in and they're telling me how awesome my photos were, and partially it's selfishly I like the gratification of that, but
We all do. Let's be honest.
Right.
but I enjoy that I can provide that for them to keep those lasting memories. Like some of the photos that I took after the game on Saturday were trying to capture, you know, hugs from family members and people with their trophies, so they can have that nice photo for themselves.
Emily got a really nice one. You saw that. I don't know if you comment on Emily Vanderstow, who does some volunteering. He's done a great job with us as well. Got a great one of, I can't think of the assistant coach's name. He was kind of hugging James Young.
Yeah.
James Young kind of had his face covered. I don't know if you saw that. I'll show you after the podcast.
I'll have to look
if
at
not,
that.
but she did a nice job. It's just about looking for that emotion and capturing it in the right way. But
Plus, you guys are documenting history.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to be corny here, but I mean, yeah, it's all well and good this year, you know, when it's happening, but hey, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I mean, all of a sudden.
Speaking of, I was at the Ravenna Athletic Hall of Fame banquet on Saturday. Jamon Martin, who was a good running back at Ravenna, he got inducted. He's the second leading rusher all time at Ravenna behind Benny.
Yeah.
Which Benny was there because they honored the '94 team.
Okay.
So I got a good video of them. I put it on YouTube of Dusty was there. He was in a cart because he tore his Achilles, I guess. So he was, I don't know how he did that.
Yeah.
You never know what Dusty, what he was doing. But it was great having them, you know, and, you know, in town, and it was packed at St. Catherine's Hall and everything. But we didn't, even back then, we didn't have that kind of stuff. Now, they played videos, and it was kind of grainy-ish videos of the game at the Uperdome when they clobbered Iron Mountain, and then they clobbered Schoolcraft. Just the grainy video, but these guys now, they're playing now. Look at the stuff they're going to have to look back on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, it really is.
And I know the MAISD is working on a video for our football team right now, and I don't know how that's going for them, but I've seen the work that they're putting out. I've worked with them before for North Muskegon, and they do some pretty great stuff. So I'm excited to see how that video comes out, or if it comes out, depending on what happens through the next couple games.
That's awesome. We did something like that for Ravenna softball.
Yeah.
We knew they were in the middle of that run, and we like, hey, we'll ride the bus. We
It
can
ends
put
up
together this
being
thing.
a little documentary of how you made it to.
Right.
Yeah.
So just before we sign off here, what are you guys thinking? Any predictions on these 2 games Saturday, of the games from in our direct coverage area? I mean, I kind of know where you guys.
Yeah, I can tell you, in my opinion, and I've worked, you know, some camps, you know, with the coach from East Lansing there in the past, and you know, he's a great coach, Hall of Fame 2019 inductee. But I'm just telling you, to me, it's if Muskegon just focuses on Muskegon, they are too physical right now.
Right.
And I just think it's a matter of time. They can come out, they're going to hang around, whatever. And then they're going to impose their will at some point in that game on East Lansing.
That's a really cool stadium, too. You been there? Greenville's Legacy Field?
Yeah.
I was there last year when they played in the snow against DeWitt. Just awesome thing. But
the Iditarod went through, and it's a real good time. Everybody had a riot, you know.
Yeah.
So,
but me personally, I think it's going to be fun for me, one, to call a game with John here, you know, and just
been a long time.
follow suit with him. But you know, and
92.5.
92.5. When are you guys going on the air?
12:30. Is that sound right?
12:30. Yeah,
we're going to leave 5 o'clock in the morning.
we're going to leave Wednesday at 3, and we'll be there. We'll be there.
Right.
But again, I see the North Muskegon game as I think it's going to be a higher scoring contest. I think it's going to be a 42-35 kind of a thing.
Menominey's played a lot of those games.
Yeah, and I can see that. At this time of year, the weather is such a big factor too.
It is.
What kind of turf are you on?
Yeah.
Are you on grass or the Oak Ridge turf was?
That's why we left our field alone, because it's so wet right now.
Yeah.
From we got those 11 inches of
Just
snow
snow.
on
Which
Halloween.
happened to split that oak tree you guys
Yeah,
got there.
get Coach Bowles on here and ask him about going down to Grand Haven every Saturday for playoffs.
Yeah.
And again,
How neat is it that they got Hackley Stadium
it's
out?
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful too.
and that's a game changer
It is.
for that for the program.
It is.
So what are your thoughts? Obviously, you haven't seen Muskegon, but what do you think? The vibe. What's the vibe you're getting from North Muskegon, and is this going to continue?
I hope it continues, and I think our team is. They were a little hard on themselves after the game. They didn't think they were playing the best on Saturday, but I think they're going into it with a different mindset than they have for a lot of their different games. And
Right.
I might be a little bit biased, but I think they might pull it out.
What do you think, John?
Well, to be honest with you, full disclosure, Saturday, I leaned towards Menominee. I really did. I said, but I didn't know. I was thinking the old Menominee, the single wing.
Right.
And then I got to thinking. I said, well, you know what? And sort of what I told you is I don't think Menominee has seen the air attack that a North Muskegon has. So I put the check mark back in North Muskegon. And the other reason is, as you said, TJ wasn't really
Featured.
featured in that last game, and it gets down to next man up. And North Muskegon knows now that, yeah, you got your quote unquote blue chippers, your stars on that team, but if for some reason they're taken out of the game or whatever, hey, these other guys are coming up. And so I think that's going to be a key. So I'm going Muskegon.
That's a great point,
Muskegon.
John. It's a great point because when you look at Saginaw, they came into Muskegon last week.
Right.
They had one of the more prolific wide receivers in the state.
Isom.
Right.
Okay,
Braylon Isom.
and I'm going to tell you what. You're not going to beat Muskegon with one player.
No.
You're not going to beat them with one player. And when you talk about North Muskegon, you got too many weapons.
When I get the stats from Larry Witham,
Yeah.
without fail, there's like 6 or 7 kids with 2 or 3 catches almost every game.
Right. Right.
And that just shows you how they spread it around. But
Yeah.
to your point, TJ Byard, he's really good.
And it is. But when you come over here with the playoff team to play against Muskegon, if you are one-dimensional, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Okay? Because to take one player away out of the game is simple.
And Saginaw, I'll tell you what, they really pulled out all the stops against Muskegon, especially that first half. I mean, they were showing weird sets. They had like 5 guys lined up on one side. I mean, so they were trying to, and the gadget plays going for it on 4th down. And yeah, they maybe had Muskegon back on their heels a little bit, but to Muskegon's credit, they were able to adjust to that. And then they wound up scoring like 42 unanswered points, the Big Reds did. So once they caught on, it was so.
It's like a shark smelling blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Sure.
And when you throw in the fact that they physically will not back down, they are relentless.
Yeah.
Okay? And it doesn't matter if they're up by 3, down by 3, or up by 35.
Right.
They're going to play the same way. They're going to come at you and come at you and come at you. And they play with passion.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I'm leaning toward the home teams, obviously, as well, as far as who I'm going to pick. I'll have score predictions out on Thursday and the On the Mark, but I'm going to...
Running clock for both teams?
No, I'm not saying that.
We'll go ahead and say it.
I don't know if North Muskegon would. Not that I don't believe them, because I do. I mean, I've always been a believer, more so now after seeing what they've done these last 2 weeks, because those are games they could have lost. And, and they rose to, I mean, in adverse situations, they rose to the challenge each time.
Sure.
Here's the thing that's fun. You get into the playoffs, and guess what? We don't have to ride the fence.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You don't have to ride the fence. Well, this is Oak Ridge, and this is Montague.
Yeah.
You know, we got it.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to ride the fence anymore.
No.
You know, this is the home team.
Yeah,
These are our.
guys.
This is our team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's fun.
It's the United States of Muskegon. Yeah. You know, and that's what I like. I like going in there going, folks. If I sound biased, it's because I am.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a game changer when you're broadcasting and talking about the game.
It really is, yeah.
Well, I got to thank our sponsors again. I know they'll bring a smile. You know how that goes. You guys have been in this game.
Right.
Big Stone Therapies, Rescued 2.0 LLC, Grieve Law, Edward Jones with financial advisor Brett Atkins, Coldwell Banker with David Dusenberry. Got to throw the Woodland Schmidt in there too. They'll get mad if we don't mention them. Farm Bureau Insurance with the Kenny Agency, 5-Star Real Estate Leaders with Matt Parker, The Birdhouse, Scheid Plumbing, Heating and Cooling.
And Watson Marriage Counseling.
They're not on the list, but maybe down the road. Greener Drilly with Chris Dykman and Sarah Reel. And then, of course, the title sponsor, Chris Wank, Real Estate of Coldwell Banker, Woodland Schmidt. If you see Chris, tell him again, thank you on our behalf.
Absolutely.
Any parting shots?
No, and all the people out there listening to this, if you know a lot of people, you're out there. You got friends, you got places, people in the right places. For them to jump on board and sponsor anything that has to do with high school sports, it is. It's a win-win situation. Get involved.
I think everybody wins in that.
Get involved. I mean, call CatchMark here and get involved and support. It's not going to hurt you financially, and to get the advertising out there, but to support what we're doing here with high school kids. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
What were you saying, CJ?
It's one of the things that I've struggled with most with our North Muskegon live streams is, a lot of people turn down our sponsorship opportunities. But if I were them, I would probably not, because I'd like to show my support for my local community and
especially
get
if
my name out there.
They saw what's done. What you guys are doing.
Exactly.
What's being done out there. So, any thoughts from you, John?
No, I said we tip our cap to all the sponsors, and we're looking forward to a great weekend, and let's keep it going, folks.
And John and I will be announcing the game this week in French. Okay, so parlez-vous hubba hubba, and we'll talk to you on Saturday at 12:30.
12:30.
He's been practicing, folks.
All right, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching.